Hi guys, John here, and I am in my car getting ready to go get my son. Just get ready to leave the house, and thought I would turn on my camera real quick and shoot a quick video for you. Um, had an interesting thought today. I was thinking about the way I discern between truth and something that my personal truth and something I don't personally take as true. And the 1970s and 1980s were the heyday of the New Age movement. It's when all the people started coming out with all the channelings and all the various topics, and it was very quick to realize, really quick for me to realize, especially, was that as somebody would come up with an idea, then 15 other people would come up with the same kind of idea, then they would start going down those rabbit holes of those ideas. And it's like I did a question about soul contracts the other day on the Spirit Cafe podcast. And when I did the research on soul contracts, it was very interesting because soul contracts really didn't come into play until almost the year 2000. And then its biggest year was 2000. Between 2003 and 2013 were the biggest years, with 2013 being the biggest year of soul contract. You don't find that in any other earlier stuff. But to me, it doesn't make sense because of the concept of free will. To create a contract before you come here and then to get here and forget the contract makes no sense to me. So that it just doesn't feel true to me, and so I don't believe in soul contracts. Another thing that I use in my discernment is, the people who channel, and I channel. So I am probably just as guilty as everybody else at this, but and I know when I first started channeling years ago, I wasn't comfortable with it, and I'm sure that I myself was affecting what was coming through. And I think it's important that you realize that every person other than yourself is filtering from their perspective, right? You're filtering from your perspective as well, but there's not a filter between the information and you, before it gets to you, unless you're going to a channel. So they're filtering from their perspective. Now, I often talk about the idea that the concept of Mary Magdalene having children wasn't really a big topic anywhere until after the Da Vinci Code came out. And then everybody was suddenly talking about the bloodlines and all the stuff. And then channelers started saying, yeah, she had children in her, and then one of them said her first son was Benjamin, and they had all these names. And none of it rings true to me because my memories are very much that I took Mary Magdalene back to Galilee with me, and she lived with me for quite some time before she went back to Magdalene with her family when I left to go on the road teaching. And she didn't have children when she lived with me, and she wasn't pregnant when she lived with me. So there was no real bloodline there for me to actually believe in. So I start just discerning from my personal perspective. And so as I'm discerning my truth, I go with what feels right, number one. And I do judge what I experience through my personal experience, as we all do. When I do a channeled message, like I occasionally do on the channel, people ask me, who is that you're channeling? Are you channeling Yeshua? Are you channeling what entity are you channeling? And I don't believe it's an entity at all. I believe it's the it's the collective knowledge of all of us. I think it's the one. I think it's going into my higher consciousness and drawing information from what the Hindus would call the Akashic records or whatever. But I think everyone has that same ability. Where I think most channelers have a problem is sometimes if their worth is such that they have a struggle with being the receiver of that knowledge, sometimes the entity will be created, or the personality that's not them that they can blame the information on is created. And I'm not saying they're doing it maliciously at all. I'm saying it's their self-worth creates a filter, a barrier, something to go through. And when I listen to a channel message from someone and I hear them, using an accent that's not them, and I hear them speaking in an archaic language, thou art blah blah blah, and ye shall blah blah blah, I tend to take less stock in their information, because there may be good information in there, but I scrutinize it harder, and I take what feels right to me, and then I throw away what doesn't. And I find that most of the times when they are talking about the entities and all that stuff, it has less to do with the information and more to do with the fact that their filter is clogged. They can't tap into that one. And this isn't an ego thing at all, an ego out of balance thing at all. This is my personal perspective on how I get information and how I discern my own personal truth, which is what we all should be doing. We all should be discerning our own personal truth. You've heard me say it a million times, spirituality is a personal journey. And that is, we each must discern our own truths and live by our own truths. And, if your truth has a bunch of structure around it, and that makes you happy, and you're living loving, and you're not harming anyone, beautiful, love it, great, right? For me, the further and the deeper I get into my spirituality and follow my truth, my spirituality, my belief system gets streamlined. It gets simpler and simpler and simpler. And my belief system right now is a very simple belief system. I mean, I believe God is love, and we're experiencing fear here. And if you put out love, you get a loving response. You put out fear, you get a fearful response. And by being love and living love, you are bringing heaven to earth, and you're creating the experience. And over the course of time, you get clearer, you get more information, you start to, quote unquote, resonate with the oneness of God, and at which point you get more information. Now, for me, I've been very fortunate. I've had all these spontaneous experiences. I've had all these psychics tell me about my past life, and then I didn't trust them either, so I went to a regressionist. Right, so I kept having all these experiences in my life that were, but the more I pared away, I took myself out of religion and started finding what I truly believed, my life got easier, my connection to source got easier, my expression of self became happier. Things started happening for me in ways that I never thought possible. And it was through using my personal discernment. And so, to go back to the channels who are using the archaic speech and the different personality to bring the information through, to me, it doesn't feel true, right? It's like the argument that I got after I said that the information in the Course in Miracles seemed pretty good, like good information. I just didn't believe it came from Jeshua, because it's not teaching in a way that Jeshua would. Jeshua would never set up a year-long program that you have to follow, and everything for him was simple, about being very simple, being very present moment, and getting things done. And so it didn't feel true to me. So my discernment said, this doesn't feel like the guy that I remember. And I got all kinds of people who wanted to argue with me and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I think the person who channeled that information was of good intent. But I think the personality that was chosen to bring the information through was Jeshua, because you had to put or Jesus in that form, they had to put they couldn't accept that they would receive that information without having an intermediary. And that goes against Jeshua's teachings as well. His teachings were all about you not needing an intermediary, him not needing a deity or an avatar, him a Messiah. None of that fit what he believed. None of that fit what he taught. What he taught was, the things that I'm doing in front of you and you're seeing are all things you're capable of. And it's just a matter of you stepping into that role. Greater works than I've done you will do. It is your faith that heals you. Whatever you ask, you will receive. He was constantly about telling us about our divinity. So when I hear a channel tell me that they're channeling Jesus or Jeshua, or Yeshua, or all the many various pronunciations that I hear, Isa, when I hear them say that, it hits a red flag for me, because for me, it goes against his teachings. And he wanted us all to step into the role of being one with God. The Father and I are one. I'm the Son of God. You are the children of God. The Father and I are one. Think about that for a second. He's saying that you're one with God. At one point he says, ye are gods. That he's telling us that we are that essence. We are that divinity within. And when you use your discernment and you realize that all you have to do is, does this feel right to you? Does this not feel right to you? If it feels right to you and loving, follow it. But for me, of course, the key is that last word, loving. If it feels loving, I follow it. If it feels fear-based or fearful, I don't follow it. I don't buy it. And so because of that, I don't have fearful things happen. And I think it's important that you take control of your personal discernment. You take control of you getting the information, you coming to that place of you being the receiver. Hear someone speak, yes. And if they're saying something that rings true to you, then that's what you follow. If they say something that does not ring true to you, you don't follow it, because it's not for you. And that is the key. So this was a long conversation that I wanted to have, and I just wanted to shoot this video before I went and picked up my son. I had a little time to kill. I hope you just think about it, because that's the important part, is you go through and decide what you feel for any piece of information you get. But realize that whatever information you take as truth into yourself, it really comes down to you choosing the truths for yourself rather than having truths dictated to you. Buddha said, believe no one, even me, unless it rings true to yourself. And that's true. Don't believe me unless it rings true. Don't believe anybody else unless it rings true. Don't believe your priest, your rabbi, your mullah, your teacher, your coach. It's got to feel right to you. Because the other thing is, if it's not ringing true to you, you won't act in faith. And if you're not acting in faith, you're not creating. So that's my thought on that. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye. Thank you, my friends, for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure that you've subscribed and you like it, you share it, but also comment below it. Let's get this community talking about these topics and spreading this information out far and wide so we can change the world for the better. Thank you.